Let's jump into our first topic, dark matter. Dark matter is one of the universe's most profound mysteries, an invisible substance making up about 27% of its total mass and energy. We can't see it, touch it, or directly detect it, yet its gravitational influence is undeniable. Evidence for dark matter comes from observing how galaxies rotate. Their outer stars move too fast to be held together by visible matter alone. It also explains how galaxy clusters clump together and how light bends around massive objects, a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. Unlike ordinary matter, dark matter doesn't interact with light or any other form of electromagnetic radiation, hence its dark moniker. Scientists hypothesize it could be made of exotic particles like WIMPs, or weakly interacting massive particles, or perhaps axions. Experiments deep underground and at particle accelerators are tirelessly searching for these elusive particles, hoping to finally unlock the secret of what truly constitutes the vast majority of matter in our cosmos. Understanding dark matter is crucial for comprehending the universe's structure, formation, and ultimate evolution. Let's jump into our next topic, dark energy. While dark matter pulls things together, dark energy is the mysterious force pushing the universe apart at an accelerating rate. Discovered in the late 1990s, this enigmatic component accounts for an astonishing 68% of the universe's total mass energy density, making it the dominant influence on cosmic evolution. Before its discovery, astronomers expected the universe's expansion to be slowing down due to gravity. Instead, observations of distant supernovae revealed the opposite. The leading theory is that dark energy is a property of space itself, a cosmological constant or vacuum energy as proposed by Einstein. Another idea, called quintessence, suggests it's a dynamic energy field that changes over time. Its existence challenges our fundamental understanding of physics and gravity. The ultimate fate of the universe, whether it ends in a big freeze, big rip, or big crunch, hinges critically on the true nature of dark energy, leaving cosmologists with one of the greatest puzzles imaginable. Let's jump into our next topic, why do we sleep? Sleep is a fundamental biological necessity, yet its exact purpose remains surprisingly elusive. We spend roughly a third of our lives asleep, and deprivation has severe consequences, from impaired cognitive function to physical illness. Current theories suggest sleep serves multiple vital roles. It's crucial for memory consolidation, where the brain processes and stores information gathered during the day. During sleep, our brains also seem to clean house, flushing out metabolic waste products that accumulate while we're awake, like beta amyloid, which is linked to Alzheimer's disease. Sleep also plays a critical role in emotional regulation, immune system function, and energy conservation. It's a period of intense neural activity, not just passive rest, with distinct stages like REM and non-REM sleep, each contributing differently to our well-being. Unraveling the complete mystery of sleep could unlock profound insights into brain health and human performance. Let's jump into our next topic, consciousness. Consciousness is perhaps the most profound mystery in science and philosophy, the subjective experience of being aware, of having thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. It's what gives rise to our inner world, our sense of self, and our ability to interact and understand the world around us. Despite millennia of contemplation and decades of neuroscience research, we still lack a definitive scientific explanation for how physical matter in the brain gives rise to this immaterial phenomenon. Is it an emergent property of complex neural networks, a symphony of electrical and chemical signals? Or is there something more fundamental at play, perhaps involving quantum mechanics or even a property inherent to the universe itself? The hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher David Chalmers termed it, asks why and how physical processes give rise to subjective experience. Unlocking this secret would redefine our understanding of life, mind, and reality. Let's jump into our next topic, déjà vu. Déjà vu, French for already seen, is that eerie, fleeting sensation of having experienced a new situation or event before, even though logically you know you haven't. It's a common phenomenon reported by an estimated 60 to 70% of people, most often in young adults. While it feels paranormal, scientists generally attribute déjà vu to momentary glitches in brain function. One leading theory suggests it's a brief malfunction in memory processing, where new sensory input is momentarily perceived as old information. This could involve a slight delay in the brain's temporal lobes, causing a perception to be registered twice, or a momentary misfiring in the hippocampus, which plays a key role in memory. Another hypothesis points to divided attention, where we process a scene partially, then fully, creating the illusion of familiarity. Whatever its precise mechanism, déjà vu offers a fascinating glimpse into the intricate and sometimes fallible workings of our memory and perception. Let's jump into our next topic, dreams. Dreams are the vivid, often bizarre narratives that unfold in our minds during sleep, primarily during REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. For centuries, they've been a source of fascination, interpreted as divine messages, prophecies, or windows into the subconscious. Modern science views dreams as complex products of the brain, though their precise function remains debated. One prominent theory, the activation synthesis hypothesis, suggests dreams are the brain's attempt to make sense of random neural activity occurring during sleep, weaving a coherent story from disparate signals. Other theories propose dreams are crucial for memory consolidation, emotional processing, problem-solving, or even rehearsing responses to threats. They can be incredibly realistic, symbolic, or utterly nonsensical, reflecting our waking experiences, fears, desires, and anxieties. Studying dreams offers a unique pathway to understand the brain's inner workings, its creative capacity, and the intricate connections between our conscious and unconscious minds. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do we age? Aging is the universal, inevitable process of decline in physical and cognitive function that affects nearly all living organisms over time. But why does it happen? There are numerous theories, broadly categorized into programmed theories and damage or error theories. Programmed theories suggest aging is a genetically determined process, like a biological clock ticking down, perhaps involving telomere shortening at the ends of chromosomes, which limit cell division. Damage theories propose aging results from accumulated wear and tear on our cells and tissues, caused by factors like oxidative stress from free radicals, DNA mutations, or protein misfolding. It's likely a combination of these factors. Evolutionarily, aging might be a trade-off. Organisms that reproduce early and quickly pass on their genes, even if it means a shorter lifespan. Understanding the mechanisms of aging could unlock pathways to extend healthy human lifespan and combat age-related diseases. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do we have fingertips? Our fingertips are far more than just the ends of our fingers. They are highly specialized sensory organs, crucial for our interaction with the world. The intricate network of nerve endings packed into our fingertips make them incredibly sensitive, allowing us to perceive texture, temperature, and pressure with exquisite detail. This tactile acuity is vital for tasks ranging from tying a shoelace to reading Braille. Beyond sensation, the unique ridges and grooves of our fingerprints serve multiple purposes. They enhance grip on surfaces, much like tire treads, by increasing friction and potentially helping to channel away moisture. The underlying fatty pads provide cushioning and support, protecting the delicate bone and nerve structures within. This combination of sensory precision, enhanced grip, and protective padding makes fingertips an evolutionary marvel, indispensable tools for manipulation, exploration, and our very survival in a complex physical environment. Let's jump into our next topic. How did life begin? The question of how life emerged from non-living matter, a process known as abiogenesis, is one of science's most profound challenges. Earth's early conditions, billions of years ago, were vastly different from today. A turbulent environment with volcanic activity, lightning storms, and a different atmospheric composition. The prevailing scientific hypothesis is that simple organic molecules, like amino acids and nucleotides, formed spontaneously from inorganic precursors under these conditions. These building blocks then self-assembled into more complex structures, such as proteins and nucleic acids, RNA and DNA. A key step would have been the formation of self-replicating molecules, with RNA often considered the prime candidate in the RNA world hypothesis. Eventually, these molecules became enclosed within membranes, forming protocells, capable of maintaining an internal environment and rudimentary metabolism. While many pieces of the puzzle are still missing, research continues to reveal plausible pathways for life's initial spark. Let's jump into our next topic. What is gravity really? Gravity, the force that keeps our feet on the ground, planets in orbit, and galaxies bound together, is a fundamental force of nature, yet its true essence remains a deep mystery. Newton described it as an attractive force between objects with mass. Einstein, with his theory of general relativity, revolutionized our understanding, proposing that gravity isn't a force at all, but rather a manifestation of the curvature of space-time caused by mass and energy. Massive objects warp the fabric of space-time around them, and what we perceive as gravity is simply objects following the shortest path, a geodesic, through this curved geometry. While general relativity accurately describes gravity on large scales, it breaks down at quantum scales, leading to the quest for a theory of quantum gravity. Whether gravity is a field, a particle, the elusive graviton, or a geometric property of the universe, its ultimate nature is one of physics's greatest unanswered questions. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do fundamental constants have their exact values? The universe is governed by a set of fundamental constants, numbers like the speed of light, the gravitational constant, Planck's constant, and the fine structure constant. These values are incredibly precise, and if even slightly different, the universe as we know it, with stars, galaxies, and life, would likely not exist. For instance, a tiny change in the strong nuclear force constant would prevent atoms from forming or stars from fusing elements. This precise tuning is often called the fine-tuning problem. Why are these constants exactly what they are? Is it just a cosmic coincidence? Are they truly fundamental? Or do they emerge from a deeper theory? The anthropic principle suggests they must be these values for conscious observers to exist and ask the question. The multiverse hypothesis offers another explanation. Perhaps countless universes exist with different constants, and we simply find ourselves in one where life is possible. This question probes the very fabric of reality and the conditions for existence. Let's jump into our next topic, the fate of the universe. The ultimate fate of the universe is one of cosmology's most captivating questions, intricately linked to the mysterious nature of dark energy. For decades, the primary candidates were the Big Crunch, if gravity eventually halted and reversed expansion, the Big Freeze, or heat death, where the universe expands infinitely, becoming cold, dark, and empty, or the Big Rip, if dark energy becomes so dominant it tears everything apart from galaxies to atoms. Current observations, particularly the accelerating expansion driven by dark energy, strongly favor the Big Freeze scenario. In this future, stars will eventually burn out, black holes will evaporate through Hawking radiation, and the universe will asymptotically approach a state of maximum entropy, a uniform, cold, and dark void where no further processes can occur. However, if dark energy changes its properties, other fates remain possible, making the universe's final chapter a dynamic and ongoing area of research. Let's jump into our next topic. What exists beyond the observable universe? The observable universe is a sphere approximately 93 billion light-years in diameter, centered on Earth, representing the region from which light has had time to reach us since the Big Bang. But what lies beyond this cosmic horizon? Scientifically, we cannot know for certain, as information from that region simply hasn't reached us yet. However, cosmological models suggest that the universe extends far beyond what we can see, potentially infinitely. There's no reason to assume our observable bubble is special, or that the universe ends just beyond it. It's likely more of the same: galaxies, clusters, and voids, governed by the same physical laws, stretching out indefinitely. This unobservable region is not a separate universe, but rather a continuation of our own, just too distant for light to have traversed the gap in the age of the cosmos. It represents the vast, unseen majority of our universe. Let's jump into our next topic. Do we live in a multiverse? The idea of a multiverse, a collection of multiple universes, including our own, is a fascinating and increasingly discussed concept in theoretical physics. Several theories suggest its possibility. The inflationary multiverse, stemming from cosmic inflation theory, posits that eternal inflation could endlessly spawn bubble universes, each with potentially different physical laws and constants. The string theory landscape suggests an enormous number of possible universes, each corresponding to a different configuration of extra dimensions. Quantum mechanics also offers a many worlds interpretation, where every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into parallel realities, each representing a different outcome. While entirely speculative and currently untestable, the multiverse concept could elegantly explain the fine-tuning of our universe's constants or the existence of rare phenomena. It's a profound leap beyond our single cosmic bubble, challenging our perception of reality and our place within it. Let's jump into our next topic. Why is there more matter than antimatter? One of the greatest puzzles in cosmology is the overwhelming dominance of matter over antimatter in our universe. The Big Bang theory predicts that matter and antimatter should have been created in nearly equal amounts. When matter and antimatter particles meet, they annihilate each other in a burst of energy. If the universe started with equal parts, everything should have annihilated, leaving behind a universe filled only with radiation, not galaxies, stars, or us. Yet here we are. This imbalance suggests a slight asymmetry must have existed in the very early universe, a phenomenon known as baryogenesis. For every billion antimatter particles, there was perhaps 1,000,000,001 matter particles. This tiny excess of matter survived the annihilation, eventually forming everything we observe today. The precise mechanism for this asymmetry, which violates perfect charge parity (CP) symmetry, is still unknown, but experiments like CERN are actively searching for answers. Let's jump into our next topic: magnetars. Magnetars are a rare and extreme type of neutron star, the super-dense remnant of a collapsed massive star. What sets them apart is their unbelievably powerful magnetic fields, the strongest known in the universe, quadrillions of times stronger than Earth's. These intense fields are so potent they could strip the data from every credit card on Earth from halfway to the moon. They are believed to be formed from rapidly rotating, highly magnetized stellar cores. The energy stored in these fields can cause starquakes on the magnetar surface, releasing colossal bursts of X-rays and gamma rays, known as soft gamma repeaters or anomalous X-ray pulsars. These flares are so powerful they can affect Earth's ionosphere from thousands of light-years away. Magnetars are cosmic laboratories for extreme physics, allowing scientists to study matter under conditions impossible to replicate on Earth. Let's jump into our next topic: what causes Earth's magnetic reversals? Earth's magnetic field, generated by the convective motion of molten iron in its outer core, protects us from harmful solar radiation. However, this field isn't static. It occasionally flips, with the north and south magnetic poles swapping places.
This phenomenon, known as geomagnetic reversal, has occurred hundreds of times throughout Earth's history, with the last major reversal happening about 780,000 years ago. The exact mechanism triggering these reversals isn't fully understood, but it's thought to be related to the complex, turbulent dynamics within the geodynamo, the fluid motion of the Earth's liquid outer core. During a reversal, the field doesn't instantly flip. It weakens significantly, becomes more complex with multiple poles, and drifts over thousands of years before re-establishing itself in the opposite direction. Studying these reversals provides insights into Earth's deep interior and its long-term geological processes. Let's jump into our next topic, ball lightning. Ball lightning is one of the most intriguing and elusive atmospheric phenomena, often described as a luminous, spherical object, typically a few centimeters to several meters in diameter, which appears during thunderstorms. Unlike regular lightning, it seems to float or drift through the air, sometimes even passing through windows or aircraft, before either dispersing silently or exploding with a bang. Despite numerous eyewitness accounts dating centuries, ball lightning has rarely been scientifically observed or reliably reproduced in a laboratory, making its existence and nature a persistent mystery. Theories range from superheated plasma trapped in a magnetic field to microwave radiation confined by an air bubble, or even exotic chemical reactions involving silicon nanoparticles vaporized by a lightning strike. The challenge lies in its unpredictable and transient nature, but unraveling ball lightning could offer new insights into plasma physics and atmospheric electricity.
Let's jump into our next topic. Why does the sun's corona get hotter than its surface? It seems counterintuitive. The sun's visible surface, the photosphere, is a relatively cool 5,500 degrees Celsius, but its outermost atmosphere, the corona, blazes at millions of degrees Celsius. This dramatic temperature inversion, known as the coronal heating problem, is one of solar physics' greatest unsolved mysteries. The energy must be coming from below the surface, but how it's transferred and dissipated in the corona is the puzzle. Two leading theories are wave heating and magnetic reconnection. Wave heating proposes that sound and magnetic waves generated by convection beneath the photosphere travel upwards, depositing their energy in the corona. Magnetic reconnection suggests that the constant tangling, breaking, and rejoining of magnetic field lines in the corona release enormous amounts of energy. Scientists are using advanced telescopes and missions like NASA's Parker Solar Probe to gather data and finally solve this fiery enigma. Let's jump into our next topic, the hum. The hum refers to a persistent, low-frequency humming or droning sound reported by a small percentage of people worldwide, often more noticeable indoors and at night. It's typically described as a continuous, annoying background noise, sometimes likened to a distant diesel engine, that only certain individuals can hear, earning them the label hearers. What makes the hum so mysterious is its localized nature. It's often heard only in specific geographic areas, like Bristol, UK, or Taos, New Mexico, and by a select few, while most people in the same vicinity hear nothing. Potential explanations range from industrial machinery, gas pipelines, power lines, or even natural phenomena like seismic activity or ocean waves. However, many reported cases remain unexplained, leading some to speculate about psychological factors or even mass hysteria. The hum remains an intriguing auditory puzzle, challenging our understanding of sound perception and environmental acoustics. Let's jump into our next topic, the true nature of time. Time is a fundamental aspect of our existence, yet its true nature is profoundly enigmatic. We experience it as a linear progression from past to present to future, a relentless arrow moving forward. But is time a fundamental dimension, like space, through which we travel? Or is it an emergent phenomenon, an illusion created by our brains or by the increase of entropy in the universe? Einstein's theory of relativity showed that time is not absolute, but relative, flowing differently for observers in different reference frames or gravitational fields. This concept of space-time treats time as inextricably linked with space.
Quantum mechanics, however, offers a different perspective, where time often appears as a mere parameter. The problem of time in quantum gravity seeks to reconcile these views. Whether time is a fundamental building block of reality, a statistical artifact, or a subjective experience, its ultimate nature remains one of the deepest questions in physics and philosophy. Let's jump into our next topic: fast radio bursts. Fast radio bursts, or FRBs, are incredibly powerful millisecond-long flashes of radio waves originating from distant galaxies. First discovered in 2007, these enigmatic cosmic signals release more energy in a fraction of a second than the sun does in an entire day. Their extreme brevity and immense power make them one of the most exciting new phenomena in astrophysics. While many FRBs are one-offs, a significant subset are repeaters, flashing multiple times from the same location. This repetition is particularly crucial, allowing astronomers to pinpoint their host galaxies and study the environments they come from. The exact source of FRBs is still unknown, but leading candidates include highly magnetized neutron stars, magnetars, colliding black holes, or even exotic phenomena like cosmic strings. Studying these bursts offers a unique probe of the intergalactic medium and could provide clues to extreme astrophysical processes. Let's jump into our next topic: phantom pain. Phantom pain is the perplexing and often debilitating sensation that an amputated limb or removed organ is still present and experiencing pain. Patients describe sensations like cramping, burning, tingling, or shooting pain in a body part that no longer exists. This phenomenon challenges our understanding of pain, demonstrating that it's not simply a direct response to tissue damage, but a complex construct of the brain. Theories for phantom pain involve changes in the brain and spinal cord after amputation. The brain's body map may reorganize, with areas previously dedicated to the missing limb being taken over by adjacent body parts, leading to confusing signals. Nerve endings at the amputation site can also become overactive, sending abnormal signals. Understanding phantom pain is not just about alleviating suffering, but also about unraveling the intricate neural pathways and cognitive processes that create our perception of our own bodies. Let's jump into our next topic: how did the moon form? The origin of Earth's moon, our constant celestial companion, was a long-standing mystery until the prevailing giant impact hypothesis emerged. This theory posits that about 4.5 billion years ago, early Earth was struck by a Mars-sized protoplanet, often named Theia. The immense collision vaporized and ejected a vast amount of material from both bodies into orbit around Earth. This debris then coalesced and accreted over time, forming the moon. Evidence supporting this theory includes the moon's surprisingly large size relative to Earth, its lower density compared to Earth's core, and the chemical similarities between lunar and Earth rocks, particularly the isotopic composition of oxygen, which points to a common origin. While some details are still being refined, the giant impact hypothesis provides the most comprehensive explanation for the moon's formation, a catastrophic event that fundamentally shaped our planet's early history.
Let's jump into our next topic. Why do quantum particles seem to choose their state? In the strange world of quantum mechanics, particles like electrons or photons don't have definite properties like position or spin until they are measured. Instead, they exist in a superposition of all possible states simultaneously. It's only upon observation that the wave function collapses and the particle appears to choose a single definite state. This bizarre behavior, famously illustrated by Schrödinger's cat, challenges our classical intuition about reality. Why does measurement play such a crucial role? Is it the act of observation itself, the interaction with a classical measuring device, or something more fundamental? Interpretations vary widely, from the Copenhagen interpretation, measurement causes collapse, to the many worlds interpretation, all states are realized in different universes. This measurement problem is at the heart of quantum mechanics, blurring the line between observer and observed and suggesting a reality far stranger than we perceive. Let's jump into our next topic. What is space itself?
We perceive space as the three-dimensional arena in which all physical events occur, the vast emptiness that separates objects. But what is it fundamentally? Is it an empty container, a mere backdrop, or is it a dynamic physical entity with properties of its own? Einstein's theory of general relativity revolutionized this view, demonstrating that space is not just a passive stage, but an active participant in the universe. It can be stretched, warped, and curved by mass and energy, giving rise to gravity. This concept of space-time, a unified fabric of space and time, suggests that space is a real, tangible thing, constantly evolving. At the quantum level, the nature of space becomes even more mysterious. Some theories suggest space might be discrete, made of tiny, indivisible units rather than continuous. Unraveling the true nature of space is crucial for a complete understanding of gravity, quantum mechanics, and the very structure of reality. Let's jump into our next topic, the bloop. The bloop was an ultra-low-frequency, high-amplitude underwater sound detected by NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, hydrophones in the Pacific Ocean in 1997. The sound was so powerful it was heard across a range of over 5,000 kilometers. Its characteristics, a rapid variation in frequency, led scientists to conclude it was biological in origin, yet its amplitude was far greater than that produced by any known animal, including the blue whale, the largest creature on Earth. This led to widespread speculation, from undiscovered colossal sea creatures to exotic geological phenomenon. While initially an intriguing mystery, NOAA later determined that the bloop's spectrographic characteristics were consistent with those of an ice quake, the sound generated by large icebergs cracking and fracturing in the Antarctica. Though the mystery was solved, the bloop captured the public imagination, highlighting the vast, unexplored depths of our oceans. Let's jump into our next topic. How do animals migrate with such precision? Animal migration is one of nature's most spectacular and enduring mysteries. Millions of animals, from tiny butterflies to massive whales, undertake epic journeys, spanning thousands of miles, often returning to the same breeding or feeding grounds year after year with incredible accuracy. How do they navigate across vast, featureless oceans or dense forests without maps or GPS? Scientists believe animals employ a remarkable array of sensory cues. Many species use the Earth's magnetic field as an internal compass, detecting its inclination or intensity. They also rely on celestial navigation, orienting themselves by the sun, even when it's cloudy, using polarized light, and stars. Olfactory cues, learned landmarks, infrasound, and even memory of past journeys also play crucial roles. The complex interplay of these diverse navigational strategies, often genetically programmed, allow these creatures to perform feats of endurance and precision that continue to astound researchers. Let's jump into our next topic, the Mpemba Effect. The Mpemba Effect is the counterintuitive phenomenon where, under certain conditions, hot water can freeze faster than cold water. Named after Erasto Mpemba, who observed it in Tanzania in 1963 during a school experiment, this effect has puzzled scientists for centuries, with references dating back to Aristotle, Bacon, and Descartes. While it seems to defy basic thermodynamics, numerous studies have shown it to be a real, albeit complex, phenomenon dependent on specific experimental conditions. Several theories attempt to explain it. Differences in dissolved gases, cold water holds more, evaporation rates, hot water evaporates faster, reducing its mass, convection currents, hot water has more vigorous convection, aiding heat transfer, or even supercooling effects. One recent theory suggests that the unique hydrogen bonds in hot water store more energy, which is released more rapidly during cooling. The Mpemba effect highlights the intricate and sometimes surprising behavior of water. Let's jump into our next topic. How does the brain store and retrieve memories? Memory is the incredible ability of our brains to encode, store, and retrieve information and experiences. But how does this complex process actually work? Scientists believe memories aren't stored in a single location, but distributed across various brain regions, particularly the hippocampus, crucial for forming new memories, the amygdala, involved in emotional memories, and the cerebral cortex, for long-term storage. Memories are thought to be encoded through changes in the strength and number of connections between neurons, a process called synaptic plasticity. When we learn something new, these connections are strengthened, forming what's known as an engram, or memory trace. Retrieval involves reactivating these neural pathways. However, the precise mechanisms by which specific experiences are converted into enduring physical changes in the brain and how those changes are later accessed to reconstruct a past event remain a profound area of research in neuroscience.
Let's jump into our next topic. What lies at the center of a black hole? At the heart of a black hole lies a singularity, a point in space-time where matter is compressed to an infinitely small volume, and density and gravity become infinite. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, the laws of physics as we know them break down at this point. It's a region of infinite curvature, a mathematical construct that suggests our current understanding of gravity is incomplete. Beyond the singularity, there's the event horizon, the point of no return, where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. What happens to matter that crosses the event horizon and falls into the singularity? Does it cease to exist? Does it get transported to another universe? Does it become a fuzzball of strings, as string theory suggests? Or is there a gravistar with a core of exotic matter? The singularity represents a frontier where general relativity and quantum mechanics must eventually be unified. Let's jump into our next topic. Do aliens exist? The question of whether we are alone in the universe is one of humanity's oldest and most profound. Given the sheer number of stars, trillions in the observable universe, and planets, billions of potentially habitable ones, it seems statistically improbable that Earth is the only planet to host life. The Drake equation attempts to estimate the number of communicative civilizations, but many of its variables are unknown. The Fermi paradox highlights the contradiction. If aliens are common, where are they? Why haven't we detected any signs of life? Possible explanations range from the Great Filter, a bottleneck preventing life from evolving or surviving beyond a certain point, either in our past or future, to the idea that intelligent life is simply too rare, or too distant, or perhaps deliberately avoiding contact. While we've yet to find definitive proof, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, continues, driven by the compelling possibility that life may be abundant elsewhere. Let's jump into our next topic, the second law of thermodynamics and the future. The second law of thermodynamics states that the total entropy, disorder, or randomness of an isolated system can only increase over time, or remain constant, but never decrease. This fundamental law dictates the direction of all spontaneous processes in the universe, from a dropped glass shattering to stars burning out. In the context of the universe's future, it points towards an ultimate heat death or big freeze. As the universe expands indefinitely, matter and energy will become increasingly spread out. Temperatures will drop to near absolute zero, and all available energy will be converted into unusable heat. There will be no temperature differences to drive any work, no stars, no galaxies, just a vast, cold, dark, and empty void of maximum entropy. This slow, inexorable march towards ultimate disorder is a cosmic inevitability, suggesting a future where all activity and complexity eventually cease. Let's jump into our next topic. Why are some people left-handed? Approximately 10 to 12% of the global population is left-handed, a trait that has fascinated scientists and cultural observers for centuries.
While the vast majority are right-handed, the persistence of left-handedness across populations suggests it offers some evolutionary advantage or is simply a benign variation. The exact cause is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a complex interplay of genetics and environmental factors during development. Studies have identified several genes that may influence handedness, though none are solely responsible. Brain lateralization, where different hemispheres specialize in different functions, also plays a role. While there are some theories about prenatal testosterone exposure or even random chance, the precise genetic and developmental pathways that lead to one hand being dominant over the other remains an active area of neurobiological research. Let's jump into our next topic. What is quantum entanglement really? Quantum entanglement is one of the most bizarre and counterintuitive phenomena in quantum mechanics, famously described by Einstein as spooky action at a distance. It occurs when two or more particles become linked in such a way that they share the same fate, regardless of the distance separating them. If you measure a property of one entangled particle, like its spin, you instantly know the corresponding property of the other, even if they are light years apart. This instantaneous correspondence seems to violate the cosmic speed limit of light, but no information is actually transmitted faster than light. The particles don't communicate, rather they are part of a single unified quantum system. Entanglement is not just a theoretical curiosity, it's been experimentally verified and is the basis for emerging technologies like quantum computing and quantum cryptography, promising revolutionary advancements by harnessing this quantum weirdness. Let's jump into our next topic. Can we achieve nuclear fusion as a power source? Nuclear fusion, the process that powers the sun, involves fusing light atomic nuclei, like hydrogen isotopes, together to form heavier ones, releasing immense energy. If harnessed on Earth, it could provide a virtually limitless, clean, and safe energy source, using abundant fuel, deuterium from seawater, and producing minimal long-lived radioactive waste. The challenge lies in creating and sustaining the extreme conditions, temperatures hotter than the sun's core, over 100 million degrees Celsius, and high pressures to force nuclei to overcome their natural electrostatic repulsion. Scientists are pursuing two main approaches: magnetic confinement fusion, using powerful magnetic fields to trap superheated plasma, as in tokamaks like ITAR, and inertial confinement fusion, using lasers to compress and heat fuel pellets. While significant progress has been made, achieving a net energy gain from fusion remains one of humanity's greatest scientific and engineering challenges, but one with transformative potential.
Let's jump into our next topic. What are cosmic rays, and where do they come from? Cosmic rays are high-energy particles, primarily atomic nuclei, mostly protons, and electrons, that travel through space at nearly the speed of light. They constantly bombard Earth from all directions. While some lower-energy cosmic rays originate from the Sun, the most energetic ones are truly cosmic, coming from beyond our solar system, even beyond our galaxy. The origin of these ultra-high-energy cosmic rays, UHECRs, is one of the biggest mysteries in astrophysics. Leading candidates for their sources include supernova remnants, active galactic nuclei, supermassive black holes actively accreting matter, and gamma-ray bursts. These extreme environments are capable of accelerating particles to energies far exceeding anything achievable in Earth-based accelerators. Studying cosmic rays provides crucial insights into the most violent and energetic processes in the universe, helping us understand the extreme physics of the cosmos. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the Yeti crab's fur for? The Yeti crab, or Kiwa hirsuna, is a fascinating deep-sea crustacean discovered in 2005 near hydrothermal vents in the South Pacific. Its most striking feature is its fur, dense, silky bristles covering its claws and legs, giving it a Yeti-like appearance. The purpose of this fur, or setae, is one of its enduring mysteries.
Scientists hypothesize it's not for warmth, given the cold deep-sea environment, but rather serves as a unique farm for chemosynthetic bacteria. These bacteria likely thrive on the chemicals, like hydrogen sulfide, expelled from the hydrothermal vents, and the crab then harvests them for food, perhaps by scraping them off with specialized mouthparts. This symbiotic relationship would allow the Yeti crab to survive in an otherwise nutrient-poor environment. The fur might also play a role in sensory perception or protection, but its primary function as a bacterial garden highlights the ingenious adaptations of life in extreme environments. Let's jump into our next topic: free will. The concept of free will, our ability to make choices and decisions independently, is central to human experience, morality, and legal systems. Yet it faces profound challenges from both philosophy and science. Determinism suggests that all events, including our choices, are predetermined by prior causes, leaving no room for genuine free will. Modern neuroscience, with its increasing understanding of brain mechanisms, further complicates the picture. Studies have shown that brain activity associated with a decision can be detected milliseconds or even seconds before a person consciously becomes aware of making that decision. Does this mean our brains make choices before we do? Or is consciousness simply catching up to a process already in motion? Reconciling our subjective experience of freedom with a universe governed by physical laws and neural processes is one of the most enduring and complex debates, blurring the lines between mind, brain, and reality. Let's jump into our next topic. Can humans ever achieve warp drive? Warp drive, a staple of science fiction, proposes a method of faster-than-light travel by warping space-time itself, rather than moving through it. The most famous concept is the Alcubierre drive, which theoretically creates a warp bubble around a spacecraft, contracting space in front of it and expanding space behind it. This would allow the ship to effectively travel at superluminal speeds from an outside observer's perspective, without violating Einstein's local speed limit of light. However, the theoretical requirements for such a drive are immense. It would necessitate exotic matter with negative energy density, a substance not known to exist and possibly violating known physics. The energy requirements are also astronomically high. While mathematically intriguing, warp drive remains firmly in the realm of theoretical speculation. Overcoming these hurdles would require breakthroughs in physics far beyond our current understanding, making it a distant dream, if even possible. Let's jump into our next topic. Is there a fifth fundamental force? Physics currently recognizes 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. These forces govern all interactions in the universe. However, some anomalies and theoretical inconsistencies have led physicists to speculate about the existence of a hypothetical fifth force. This force would be very weak and act over very short distances, or perhaps only on specific types of particles. One motivation comes from the search for dark matter, as a fifth force could mediate interactions between dark matter particles or between dark matter and ordinary matter. Another arises from discrepancies in fundamental constants or unusual particle decay patterns observed in experiments. While numerous experiments have searched for a fifth force, none have yet yielded definitive evidence. But the ongoing quest for new physics beyond the standard model keeps the door open to a subtle, undiscovered force shaping our reality. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the holographic universe hypothesis? The holographic universe hypothesis is a radical and mind-bending idea suggesting that our three-dimensional reality and everything in it might actually be a holographic projection from a distant two-dimensional surface. Much like a hologram, where a three-dimensional image is reconstructed from a 2D pattern, this theory posits that the entire universe could be a grand cosmic hologram. This concept emerges from theoretical work on black holes, specifically the holographic principle, which states that the information content of a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary. If this principle applies to the entire universe, it implies that our perceived reality is merely a projection of information existing at a lower dimension, perhaps at the very edge of the cosmos. While highly speculative, it offers a potential way to unify quantum mechanics and general relativity, fundamentally reshaping our understanding of reality.
Let's jump into our next topic. Can we extract energy from a vacuum? The idea of extracting free energy from a vacuum sounds like science fiction, yet it stems from a profound concept in quantum mechanics. The vacuum is not truly empty. Instead, it's a seething sea of virtual particles constantly popping into and out of existence, fluctuations of quantum fields. This zero-point energy, or vacuum energy, is theoretically enormous. The Casimir effect, where two uncharged parallel plates placed very close together experience an attractive force, is often cited as experimental evidence of this vacuum energy. However, harnessing this energy for practical use is another matter entirely. Extracting usable work from these quantum fluctuations without violating thermodynamic laws remains a huge challenge. While the energy is undoubtedly there, the methods to convert it into a sustainable power source are still purely theoretical, fraught with conceptual hurdles and the risk of violating fundamental energy conservation principles. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do we laugh? Laughter is a universal human expression, an involuntary and often infectious vocalization accompanied by characteristic facial expressions and body movements. But why do we laugh? The function of laughter is complex and multifaceted, serving both social and psychological roles. Socially, it's a powerful bonding mechanism, signaling playfulness, agreement, and shared understanding, strengthening group cohesion. Psychologically, laughter is often triggered by incongruity, a violation of expectations, or a sudden shift in perspective, as in jokes. It can also be a release of tension, a coping mechanism for stress or anxiety, and even a physiological exercise that boosts mood and well-being. While the precise neural pathways are still being mapped, laughter likely evolved as an important social signal, a way to communicate and connect, and a unique human response to the absurdities and joys of life. Let's jump into our next topic. Why is the speed of light constant? The speed of light in a vacuum, approximately 299,792,458 meters per second, is a fundamental constant of nature, denoted by c. What makes it so special is that it's the ultimate speed limit in the universe and is invariant. It's the same for all observers, regardless of their own motion. This concept is a cornerstone of Einstein's special relativity. But why is it constant? It's not truly about light itself, but about the properties of space-time. Light, being massless, naturally travels at this maximum speed through the fabric of space-time. It's the speed at which causality propagates. If something were to travel faster than light, it could violate causality, allowing effects to precede their causes. The constancy of c reflects a deep symmetry in the universe, a limit imposed by the very structure of reality, rather than a specific property of photons. Let's jump into our next topic, the Pioneer anomaly. The Pioneer anomaly refers to an unexplained deviation in the trajectories of the Pioneer 10 and 11 spacecraft as they journeyed out of our solar system. For decades after their launch in the 1970s, both probes experienced a tiny, constant, anomalous acceleration directed back towards the Sun, approximately 10 billion times weaker than Earth's gravity. This tiny force, consistently observed, could not be explained by known gravitational forces, solar radiation pressure, or other conventional effects. It led to speculation about new physics, perhaps a modification of gravity, the influence of dark matter, or even unknown forces. After years of meticulous analysis, the mystery was largely resolved in 2012. It was determined that the anomalous acceleration was due to anisotropic thermal radiation emanating from the spacecrafts themselves, specifically the uneven emission of heat from their onboard power sources.
While solved, it was a compelling example of how precision measurements can challenge our understanding of physics. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do some people have synesthesia? Synesthesia is a fascinating neurological phenomenon where stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to automatic, involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway. For example, a person with grapheme color synesthesia might see specific letters or numbers consistently associated with particular colors. For example, A is always red, B is always blue. Other forms include seeing sounds, tasting words, or feeling textures for certain emotions. The exact cause is unknown, but theories suggest it involves increased cross-activation or cross-wiring between different brain regions that are normally separate. This might be due to a lack of pruning of neural connections during development or an overabundance of certain neurotransmitters. Synesthesia is not a disorder, but a unique way of perceiving the world, offering insights into the brain's organization, sensory processing, and the nature of subjective experience. Let's jump into our next topic. How does the zombie worm survive? The zombie worm, Ossidax, is a genus of deep-sea polychaete worms with a truly bizarre and specialized lifestyle. These worms were discovered thriving on the bones of whale carcasses that sink to the ocean floor. Lacking mouths and digestive systems, they extend root-like structures into the bone, secreting acid to dissolve the bone material. They then absorb the lipids and proteins released. The mystery lies in how they accomplish this. They host symbiotic bacteria within their root tissues, which are believed to play a crucial role in breaking down the bone's organic matter. The female worms are relatively large, while the males are microscopic, living as larvae inside the female's body. This specialized adaptation to a highly ephemeral and nutrient-rich food source in the deep sea demonstrates the incredible diversity and ingenuity of life, even in the most extreme environments.
Let's jump into our next topic. Could we live inside a black hole? Living inside a black hole, as depicted in some science fiction, faces insurmountable challenges according to our current understanding of physics. While the event horizon of a supermassive black hole might seem tranquil to an infalling observer for a brief period, the journey towards the singularity is a one-way trip. The immense gravitational forces would lead to spaghettification, stretching any object vertically while compressing it horizontally, long before reaching the singularity. Even if one could survive the tidal forces, the singularity at the center represents a region where space and time swap roles, effectively making forward always point towards the singularity. There's no escaping it, and no stable orbit or living environment. While theoretical concepts like traversable wormholes, which might connect to other universes, sometimes involve black hole-like structures, a conventional black hole is a one-way cosmic trap, not a habitable zone. Let's jump into our next topic. Is the universe a simulation? The simulation hypothesis proposes that our universe, and everything in it, is actually a sophisticated computer simulation created by a more advanced civilization. This idea, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom, suggests that if such civilizations are technologically capable of creating highly realistic simulations, and if there are many more simulated universes than real ones, then the probability that we are living in a simulation is high. Evidence for or against this is purely speculative, but proponents point to certain features of our universe: the fine-tuning of physical constants, the discrete nature of quantum mechanics, like pixels in a simulation, or even glitches in reality. While there's no concrete scientific proof, the hypothesis prompts profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and what it truly means to exist. It's a modern twist on ancient philosophical inquiries about illusion and reality. Let's jump into our next topic: unknown quantum particles influencing human thought. The idea that unknown quantum particles might influence human thought or consciousness is a highly speculative but intriguing hypothesis, often linked to the quantum mind theories.
These theories suggest that quantum phenomena, like superposition and entanglement, could play a direct role in the complex processes of the brain, potentially explaining aspects of consciousness that classical physics struggles with. While there's no scientific consensus or definitive evidence for this, some researchers explore the possibility that microtubules within neurons or other biological structures could support quantum coherent states that somehow contribute to thought, decision-making, or even free will. The challenge is that the brain is a warm, wet, noisy environment where quantum coherence is typically very difficult to maintain. While fascinating, this remains largely a theoretical frontier, requiring significant breakthroughs in both quantum biology and neuroscience to be substantiated. Let's jump into our next topic. Why did Viking 1 detect signs of life on Mars? In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 lander conducted a series of experiments on Mars designed to detect signs of microbial life. One experiment, the labeled release experiment, yielded puzzling results. It involved adding a nutrient solution containing radioactive carbon to Martian soil. If microbes were present, they would metabolize the nutrients and release radioactive carbon dioxide gas, which was indeed detected. This result was initially interpreted by some scientists, notably Gilbert Levin, as a positive indication of life. However, two other Viking experiments designed to detect organic molecules, the gas chromatography mass spectrometer, found none, which contradicted the LR results, as life as we know it is based on organic compounds. The scientific consensus eventually attributed the LR results to non-biological chemical reactions in the Martian soil, possibly involving highly reactive perchlorates. The Viking experiments remain a pivotal moment in astrobiology, underscoring the challenges of detecting life beyond Earth. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the WOW signal? The WOW signal is a famous narrowband radio signal detected on August 15, 1977, by the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University during a SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project. It lasted for 72 seconds and had all the hallmarks of a potential extraterrestrial transmission. It was highly focused, narrowband, and within the hydrogen line frequency, 1420 MHz, a frequency often considered a prime candidate for interstellar communication due to hydrogen's abundance. The signal was so strong and unusual that astronomer Jerry Eyman, who was reviewing the data, circled it on a printout and wrote "WOW" next to it. Despite extensive efforts to redetect it, the signal has never been observed again, leading to its enduring mystery. While it could have been terrestrial interference, its unique characteristics continue to make it the strongest candidate for an extraterrestrial radio signal ever detected. Let's jump into our next topic. Do quantum fields create reality? In quantum field theory, the most successful framework for describing fundamental particles and forces, the universe isn't made of discrete particles, but of continuous quantum fields that permeate all of spacetime. Particles, like electrons or photons, are seen as excitations or ripples in these underlying fields. For example, an electron isn't a tiny ball, but a localized excitation of the electron field. This perspective suggests that reality, at its most fundamental level, is built from these fields. These fields are constantly fluctuating, even in a vacuum, giving rise to virtual particles and the zero-point energy. So, in a sense, yes, quantum fields do create reality as we perceive it. Our entire universe, with all its particles and forces, emerges from the dynamic interactions and excitations within these fundamental fields, making them the ultimate fabric of everything.
Let's jump into our next topic. Why do honeybees understand zero? The concept of zero, as a numerical value representing nothingness, is a sophisticated abstract idea that was a late development in human mathematics. Remarkably, recent research has shown that honeybees with their tiny brains appear to grasp this concept. In experiments, bees were trained to choose the image with the fewest elements among several options. When presented with a choice between an image containing 1 element and a blank image representing 0 elements, the bees consistently chose the blank image. This suggests they understand 0 as a quantity that is less than 1, placing it correctly at the bottom of a numerical sequence. This finding is astonishing because it challenges our assumptions about the cognitive abilities required for abstract numerical reasoning and suggests that the concept of 0 might be more fundamental or widespread in the animal kingdom than previously thought. Let's jump into our next topic. Are tachyons real? Tachyons are hypothetical particles that always travel faster than the speed of light. Their existence is permitted by certain mathematical solutions in special relativity, but these solutions come with extremely problematic implications. If tachyons existed, they would have imaginary mass and would gain energy as they slowed down, reaching infinite energy as they approach the speed of light from above. More significantly, their existence would violate causality, meaning they could potentially be used to send information back in time. This would create paradoxes where an effect could precede its cause, fundamentally breaking our understanding of the universe. Despite theoretical speculation, there is no experimental evidence whatsoever for the existence of tachyons. They remain a fascinating thought experiment, illustrating the profound implications of Einstein's cosmic speed limit and the strict causal structure of spacetime. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the true shape of the universe? The shape of the universe refers to its overall geometry and topology on the largest scales. According to Einstein's general relativity, the geometry of space is determined by the amount of matter and energy it contains. There are 3 main possibilities for the universe's geometry. 1. Flat, Euclidean. If the universe's density is exactly equal to the critical density, space is flat and parallel lines remain parallel. This is the scenario currently favored by observations. 2. Open, hyperbolic. If the density is less than the critical density, space is negatively curved, like a saddle, and parallel lines diverge. 3. Closed, spherical. If the density is greater than the critical density, space is positively curved, like the surface of a sphere, and parallel lines eventually converge. Observations of the cosmic microwave background radiation strongly suggest the universe is spatially flat. But this only tells us about its local curvature. Its global topology, whether it's infinite, finite, or connected to itself, remains an open question. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do cosmic filaments exist? The universe on large scales isn't uniformly distributed. Instead, galaxies are arranged in a vast interconnected network known as the cosmic web. This web consists of dense clusters of galaxies connected by long, thin filaments of galaxies and dark matter separated by enormous, relatively empty voids. Why do these structures exist? The prevailing theory is that they arose from tiny quantum fluctuations in the early universe, just after the Big Bang. These minute density variations were amplified by gravity over billions of years. Dark matter, which doesn't interact electromagnetically, provided the gravitational scaffolding. Ordinary matter then fell into these dark matter halos, forming the galaxies we see today along the densest regions, the filaments and clusters. The cosmic web is a direct consequence of gravity acting on primordial density fluctuations, shaping the large-scale structure of the universe. Let's jump into our next topic. Can time travel be possible? The possibility of time travel, journeying to the past or future, captures our imagination, but physics paints a complex picture. Travel to the future is already possible, thanks to Einstein's theories of relativity. Time dilation predicts that time passes slower for objects moving at high speeds or in strong gravitational fields. Astronauts on the International Space Station, for example, age slightly slower than people on Earth. Travel to the past, however, is far more problematic. It would require phenomena like closed time-like curves, CTCs, which could theoretically be formed by exotic spacetime geometries, such as those around rapidly spinning black holes or hypothetical wormholes. The major hurdle is the grandfather paradox, where altering the past could lead to logical inconsistencies.
While some theoretical physics allow for CTCs, they typically require conditions, like exotic matter with negative energy, that are not known to exist, making backward time travel highly unlikely, if not impossible. Let's jump into our next topic. What is phantom DNA? Phantom DNA is a term often used in popular science to refer to a fascinating phenomenon observed in experiments involving DNA solutions. In the 1990s, French immunologist Jacques Benveniste reported that highly diluted solutions of DNA, so diluted that they contained virtually no original DNA molecules, still emitted electromagnetic signals that could induce specific biological effects. This work was highly controversial and often linked to the debunked concept of water memory. More recently, Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier claimed similar findings, suggesting that DNA could leave an electromagnetic imprint on water, which could then be amplified and detected. However, these findings have not been independently replicated under rigorous scientific conditions and are widely regarded as pseudoscience by the mainstream scientific community. While the idea of a phantom imprint is intriguing, current physics and biology offer no mechanism for such a phenomenon.
Let's jump into our next topic. How do interstellar objects like Oumuamua form? Oumuamua, discovered in 2017, was the first confirmed interstellar object to visit our solar system. Its elongated shape, lack of a coma like a comet, and unusual acceleration baffled astronomers, sparking intense speculation about its origin and nature. It was clearly not from our solar system. Interstellar objects are thought to be ejected from other star systems, perhaps during planetary formation, when gravitational interactions fling planetesimals out into the vastness of space. These objects then wander through interstellar space for millions or billions of years before potentially encountering another star system. While Oumuamua's precise origin star system remains unknown, its existence confirms that our solar system is regularly visited by cosmic wanderers. Understanding how these objects form and are ejected provides crucial insights into the planet formation processes in other stellar nurseries and the dynamics of our galaxy. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the most fundamental particle? The quest for the most fundamental particle is a central pursuit in particle physics. According to the standard model of particle physics, the universe is made of a few dozen truly elementary particles, which are not composed of anything smaller. These include quarks, which make up protons and neutrons, leptons, like electrons and neutrinos, and force-carrying bosons, like photons, gluons, and WZ bosons. The Higgs boson, responsible for giving other particles mass, is also considered fundamental. However, the standard model is incomplete. It doesn't include gravity or dark matter. Theories beyond the standard model, like string theory, propose that these fundamental particles are not point-like, but rather tiny vibrating strings. Ultimately, the question remains open. Are these particles truly fundamental, or are they emergent properties of an even deeper, more fundamental reality, perhaps a single unified field? Let's jump into our next topic. Does the soul exist? The concept of a soul, an immaterial essence of a living being, often considered immortal and separate from the body, has been a central tenet of many religions and philosophies for millennia. From a scientific perspective, however, the existence of a soul remains unproven and largely outside the realm of empirical investigation. Neuroscience increasingly shows that all aspects of our consciousness, personality, memories, and emotions are inextricably linked to the physical brain. Damage to specific brain regions can alter or erase these qualities. There is no known physical mechanism by which a non-physical entity like a soul could interact with the physical brain, nor any detectable energy or information that leaves the body upon death. While science cannot definitively disprove the existence of a soul, it currently offers no evidence for it, leaving it a matter of faith, philosophy, and personal belief rather than scientific fact. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the great attractor?
The Great Attractor is a massive, diffuse region of gravitational anomaly in intergalactic space that appears to be pulling the Milky Way and thousands of other galaxies towards it. Located roughly 150 to 250 million light-years away in the direction of the Hydra Centaurus supercluster, it was discovered in the 1980s, when astronomers observed that galaxies in that region were moving faster than expected, indicating a powerful, unseen gravitational source. The challenge in studying it is that it lies behind the zone of avoidance, a region obscured by the dust and gas of our own Milky Way galaxy, making direct observation difficult. While originally thought to be a single enormous supercluster, later research suggests the Great Attractor is part of an even larger structure, the Laniakea supercluster, and its gravitational pull is complex, influenced by multiple large-scale structures, including the Shapley concentration, the most massive galaxy cluster in our local universe. Let's jump into our next topic: how many universes exist? The question of how many universes exist directly ties into the multiverse hypothesis, a concept with several theoretical flavors. 1. Inflationary multiverse. Eternal inflation could produce an infinite number of bubble universes, each potentially having different physical laws and constants. 2. Many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple parallel universes, each representing a different outcome. This implies an unfathomable number of universes constantly branching. 3. String theory landscape. String theory suggests a vast landscape of possible vacuum states, each corresponding to a different universe with unique properties. Estimates range from 10 to the 500 to an infinite number. 4. Mathematical universes. Some theories suggest that every mathematically consistent structure corresponds to a real existing universe. While some physicists believe in a single, unique universe, many theoretical frameworks point to a cosmic landscape far grander than our observable universe. The precise number, however, remains entirely speculative and untestable. Let's jump into our next topic: can we achieve immortality? The dream of immortality, to live indefinitely, has captured humanity for millennia. From a biological perspective, achieving true biological immortality, halting or reversing aging indefinitely, presents immense scientific challenges. While some organisms, like certain jellyfish, exhibit biological immortality, their mechanisms are vastly different from human biology. Current research focuses on understanding and combating the processes of aging, such as telomere shortening, cellular damage, and genetic mutations. Advances in gene editing, regenerative medicine, and nanotechnology could potentially extend human lifespan significantly, perhaps to hundreds or even thousands of years. However, true immortality would also face philosophical, ethical, and practical hurdles, including resource scarcity and the psychological impact of endless existence. While science continually pushes the boundaries of longevity, indefinite biological immortality remains a distant and highly speculative prospect.
Let's jump into our next topic. What is the ultimate fate of intelligence? If intelligence continues to evolve, what is its ultimate fate in the universe? This profound question touches upon the long-term survival and potential expansion of consciousness. As the universe marches towards heat death, resources will dwindle and conditions will become increasingly inhospitable. Will intelligence find ways to adapt, perhaps by migrating to new energy sources like black holes, miniaturizing its substrate, or even transcending its physical form entirely? Some speculate about the emergence of a cosmic mind or a computronium that optimizes information processing across vast scales. Others predict that intelligence will eventually face its own great filter, succumbing to self-destruction or cosmic calamities. The ultimate fate of intelligence is inextricably linked to the universe's destiny, raising questions about whether consciousness can escape the constraints of physical laws, or if it is ultimately bound to the same entropic decay as everything else. Let's jump into our next topic. Why do we perceive the world in 3 dimensions?
We inherently perceive the world in three spatial dimensions: length, width, and height. This seems fundamental to our existence, but why three? From a biological perspective, our sensory organs, particularly our eyes, are designed to process information in 3D. Binocular vision, for example, uses the slight difference in images from two eyes to create depth perception. From a physics perspective, the stability of orbits, planets around stars, electrons around nuclei, is often cited as a reason for 3 dimensions. In theories with more than 3 spatial dimensions, stable orbits are generally not possible. Furthermore, certain fundamental laws of physics, like the inverse square law for gravity and electromagnetism, naturally arise in a 3D space. While string theory and other theoretical frameworks posit the existence of extra, curled-up dimensions, our macroscopic experience is firmly rooted in these 3, suggesting they are optimal for the emergence and stability of complex structures and life. Let's jump into our next topic. What is the mechanism of quantum gravity? Quantum gravity is the holy grail of theoretical physics, a unified theory that reconciles Einstein's general relativity, which describes gravity on large scales, with quantum mechanics, which describes the universe at subatomic scales. These 2 pillars of modern physics are incredibly successful in their respective domains, but are fundamentally incompatible at extreme conditions, such as inside a black hole or at the moment of the Big Bang. The mechanism of quantum gravity is precisely what this theory seeks to explain. Leading candidates include string theory, which posits that fundamental particles are tiny vibrating strings in higher dimensions, and loop quantum gravity, which quantizes space-time itself, suggesting it's made of discrete loops of gravity. Finding the correct mechanism would revolutionize our understanding of space, time, matter, and the very beginning of the universe, unlocking the deepest secrets of reality. Let's jump into our next topic. Why is there anything instead of nothing? Why is there anything instead of nothing is perhaps the most profound philosophical and scientific question of all. It asks about the ultimate origin of existence itself. From a scientific perspective, the Big Bang theory describes the evolution of the universe from an extremely hot, dense state, but it doesn't explain what caused the Big Bang or what existed before it. Cosmological models often start with a quantum vacuum, which is not truly nothing but a sea of fluctuating energy. Could the universe have spontaneously emerged from such a quantum vacuum, driven by the laws of physics? Some theories suggest a multiverse, where our universe is just one of many, reducing the specialness of its existence. Philosophically, the question delves into contingency and necessity. Whether it's a brute fact, a consequence of quantum mechanics, or rooted in a deeper metaphysical principle, the existence of something remains the ultimate mystery. Let's jump into our next topic, cosmic censorship hypothesis. The cosmic censorship hypothesis, proposed by Roger Penrose, is a fundamental conjecture in general relativity. It states that all singularities, points of infinite density and curvature, like those at the center of black holes, are hidden behind an event horizon. This means that naked singularities, singularities that are exposed to the rest of the universe, allowing their extreme gravitational effects to be observed directly, do not exist. If naked singularities did exist, they would allow for the violation of predictability in physics, as the laws of physics break down at the singularity, making it impossible to predict the future behavior of anything near it. The hypothesis essentially protects cosmic predictability by ensuring that the breakdown of physics is always cloaked. While widely accepted and supported by numerical simulations, it remains a hypothesis because a rigorous mathematical proof for all possible scenarios has not yet been found. Let's jump into our next topic, 2 places at once? The idea of being in 2 places at once is a poetic way of describing a core principle of quantum mechanics. Quantum particles, like electrons or photons, can exist in multiple states or locations simultaneously until they are observed or measured. For instance, an electron might be in a superposition of being in two different energy levels at the same time. It's not that the electron is half in one place and half in another. Rather, its existence is described by a probability wave encompassing all possibilities. Only when an interaction or measurement occurs, the wave function collapses and the particle chooses a single definite state or location. This quantum weirdness is not just theoretical, it's experimentally verified and forms the basis for quantum computing. While macroscopic objects, like humans, don't exhibit such behavior due to decoherence, at the fundamental level, the universe is indeed capable of being in multiple states simultaneously.
Let's jump into our next topic. A grand unified theory? A grand unified theory, GUT, is a theoretical framework in particle physics that aims to unify three of the four fundamental forces of nature: the electromagnetic, strong nuclear, and weak nuclear forces. It seeks to show that at extremely high energies, such as those that existed shortly after the Big Bang, these seemingly distinct forces are actually different manifestations of a single, more fundamental force. The Standard Model of particle physics successfully describes these three forces, but treats them separately. A GUT would embed the Standard Model within a larger symmetry group, predicting new particles and interactions. While many GUTs have been proposed, e.g. SU5, SO10, none have yet been experimentally confirmed. The ultimate goal is an even more ambitious theory of everything, TOE, that would also incorporate gravity, unifying all four fundamental forces into a single, elegant framework. Let's jump into our next topic. Can consciousness alter reality? The idea that consciousness can directly alter physical reality is a profound and controversial concept, often explored in spiritual traditions and some interpretations of quantum mechanics. In quantum physics, the act of observation undeniably influences the state of a quantum system, the measurement problem. Does this imply consciousness plays a fundamental role? The mainstream scientific view is that observation in quantum mechanics refers to any interaction with a macroscopic measuring device, not necessarily a conscious mind. The collapse of the wave function is seen as an objective physical process. However, some interpretations, like the quantum mind hypothesis, speculate that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon capable of influencing reality, or that reality doesn't exist independently of an observer. While intriguing, there is no scientific evidence to support the claim that conscious thought alone can directly manipulate the physical world outside of the quantum measurement process. Let's jump into our next topic. Do higher dimensions exist? The idea of higher spatial dimensions beyond our familiar 3 and 1 time dimension is a staple of theoretical physics, particularly in string theory and M theory. These theories propose that the universe might have 10, 11, or even more spatial dimensions. So why don't we perceive them? The most common explanation is that these extra dimensions are compactified or curled up into incredibly tiny, unobservable loops, far smaller than an atom. Think of a garden hose. From far away, it looks like a 1D line, but up close, you see its 2D surface. Similarly, our macroscopic perception is limited to the 3 large dimensions. Another possibility is that we are stuck on a 3D brain within a higher dimensional bulk. While currently unproven, the existence of extra dimensions could explain mysteries like the weakness of gravity, or provide a framework for a unified theory of everything. Let's jump into our next topic. Universe exists without an observer? The question of whether the universe exists independently of an observer is a deep philosophical and scientific inquiry, particularly vexing in quantum mechanics. The Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that a quantum system doesn't have definite properties until it is measured or observed, leading to the idea that reality isn't fully formed until an observer interacts with it. This raises the question, did the universe exist before consciousness evolved?
Mainstream physics generally interprets observer as any interaction that causes the wave function to collapse, not necessarily a sentient being. The universe, in this view, is a collection of interacting quantum fields and particles that exist whether or not there's a sentient being to perceive them. However, the philosophical implications of quantum mechanics continue to fuel debate about the relationship between reality, consciousness, and existence itself. Let's jump into our next topic, the quantum mind hypothesis. The quantum mind hypothesis is a highly speculative theory that proposes that quantum mechanical phenomena, such as superposition and entanglement, are not just relevant at the subatomic level, but play a crucial role in the functioning of the brain and the emergence of consciousness. Proponents suggest that classical neuroscience, which treats neurons as classical switches, cannot fully explain the complexities of consciousness, subjective experience, or free will. Instead, they argue that quantum coherence could occur in specific biological structures, e.g., microtubules within neurons, allowing for non-local processing or properties beyond classical computation. While fascinating, this hypothesis faces significant scientific hurdles. The brain is a warm, wet, noisy environment where delicate quantum states are expected to decohere almost instantly. There is currently no robust experimental evidence to support a direct quantum mechanical basis for consciousness, and it remains a fringe theory. Let's jump into our next topic, consciousness after death. The concept of consciousness persisting after physical death is a central belief in many religions and spiritual traditions, offering comfort and meaning to countless individuals. From a scientific perspective, however, there is no empirical evidence to support the idea of consciousness existing independently of the brain. Consciousness is intimately linked to the complex neural activity and intricate biological structures of the brain. When brain activity ceases, consciousness, as we understand it, is believed to cease as well. Experiences reported during near-death experiences are often attributed to physiological processes occurring in the dying brain, such as oxygen deprivation or release of neurochemicals. While science cannot definitively disprove the possibility of consciousness after death, it currently offers no mechanism or observable phenomena to support it, leaving it a profound question for faith and philosophy rather than empirical science.
Let's jump into our next topic. Is reality information? The idea that reality is fundamentally information is a provocative and increasingly discussed concept in theoretical physics and philosophy. This it from bit hypothesis, as physicist John Wheeler famously put it, suggests that information is not merely a description of reality, but its most fundamental ingredient. In this view, particles, fields, and even space-time might emerge from underlying bits of information. This concept finds support in several areas. The holographic principle, where information in a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary. The discrete nature of quantum mechanics, suggesting a pixelated reality. And the simulation hypothesis. If reality is information, it implies a deeper, possibly computational layer to existence. While still highly speculative, this perspective challenges our traditional understanding of matter and energy, suggesting that the universe might be a vast, intricately structured informational system. Let's jump into our next topic, nothingness. Nothingness is a concept that seems simple, yet is profoundly complex and elusive when examined closely. What exactly is nothing? Is it merely the absence of everything? In physics, a true nothing is incredibly difficult to conceptualize. Even a vacuum, often thought of as empty space, is a bustling sea of virtual particles constantly popping into and out of existence, imbued with quantum fluctuations and zero-point energy. So, a true empty space is not nothing. Cosmologically, the question, why is there anything instead of nothing, highlights the difficulty. If nothing means the absence of space,
time, matter, energy, and even physical laws, then it becomes almost impossible to discuss scientifically, as it precedes the very framework of physics. Whether nothingness is a conceivable state or merely a philosophical abstraction continues to challenge our understanding of existence itself. Let's jump into our next topic, a new law of physics. Our current understanding of the universe is built upon fundamental laws of physics, but several persistent mysteries suggest that our framework is incomplete, hinting at the need for a new law of physics. Dark matter and dark energy, for instance, cannot be explained by the standard model of particle physics or general relativity alone, potentially requiring new particles or a modification of gravity. The incompatibility between quantum mechanics and general relativity points to a need for a theory of quantum gravity, which would undoubtedly introduce new laws. Anomalies in particle physics experiments, like the muon G2 experiment, also suggest physics beyond the standard model. These unresolved questions strongly indicate that the universe harbors deeper principles and interactions yet to be discovered, meaning that the coming decades could see revolutionary breakthroughs and the formulation of entirely new fundamental laws governing reality. Let's jump into our next topic, before the Big Bang. The Big Bang theory describes the evolution of our universe from an incredibly hot, dense state about 13.8 billion years ago. But what happened before the Big Bang? This question is tricky because, according to general relativity, time itself began at the Big Bang. So asking what came before is like asking what's north of the North Pole. The concept loses its meaning. However, theoretical physics offers several speculative ideas. The cyclic universe model suggests our universe is one in an endless series of big bangs and big crunches, or big bounces. Another idea involves a multiverse, where our Big Bang was just one event in a larger, eternally inflating cosmos. Some quantum gravity theories propose a quantum foam, or a state where space and time as we know them don't exist. While currently untestable, these theories attempt to extend our cosmic narrative beyond its apparent beginning. Let's jump into our next topic, the ultimate fabric of reality. The search for the ultimate fabric of reality is the grand quest of physics, seeking the most fundamental constituents and principles from which everything else emerges. For centuries, this has evolved from atoms to subatomic particles and now to quantum fields. Quantum field theory suggests that reality is made of continuous fields that permeate all of spacetime, with particles being mere excitations of these fields. Beyond this, string theory proposes that these fields, and all particles, are ultimately made of tiny, one-dimensional vibrating strings, existing in higher dimensions. Loop quantum gravity, another contender, suggests that spacetime itself is quantized, woven from discrete loops. The ultimate fabric could be geometric, informational, or something entirely beyond our current imagination. Unraveling this deepest layer would provide a unified understanding of all forces and matter, revealing the universe's most profound secrets. Let's jump into our next topic. Is the universe conscious? The idea that the entire universe might be conscious, a concept known as cosmic consciousness or panpsychism, where consciousness is a fundamental property of matter, not just brains, is a deeply philosophical and spiritual notion. Scientifically, there is no evidence to support that the universe as a whole possesses consciousness. Consciousness, as we understand it, is an emergent property of highly complex neural networks in biological brains. It requires intricate organization, information processing, and feedback loops. While the universe is incredibly complex and interconnected, it lacks the specific structures and mechanisms associated with known consciousness. Attributing consciousness to the universe often involves extending definitions beyond empirical observation. While a fascinating thought experiment, the scientific consensus remains that consciousness is a biological phenomenon, not an inherent property of the cosmos itself.
Let's jump into our next topic: a new form of life. The search for new forms of life goes beyond simply finding new species. It extends to discovering life based on fundamentally different biochemistry, energy sources, or even physical principles. All known life on Earth is carbon-based, uses water as a solvent, and relies on DNA/RNA. But could life exist that uses silicon instead of carbon, ammonia instead of water, or even a different solvent entirely? Could there be life forms that metabolize exotic energy sources, not based on sunlight or chemical reactions, perhaps leveraging geothermal heat or even quantum phenomena? The detection of phosphine on Venus, for instance, sparked questions about aerial life in its clouds. The extreme conditions on other planets and moons, like the subsurface oceans of Europa or Enceladus, could harbor life adapted in ways we can barely imagine. Expanding our definition of life is crucial for astrobiology and could revolutionize our understanding of biology itself. Let's jump into our next topic: what happens at absolute zero? Absolute zero, 0 Kelvin, or minus 273.15 degrees Celsius, is the theoretical lowest possible temperature, where particles possess the minimum possible kinetic energy. At this point, classical physics predicts that all atomic motion would cease entirely. However, quantum mechanics tells us that even at absolute zero, particles still retain a tiny amount of zero-point energy due to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, meaning they can never be perfectly still. Reaching absolute zero is impossible in practice, as it would require removing all energy, which is thermodynamically unfeasible. As materials approach absolute zero, they exhibit extraordinary quantum phenomena: superconductivity, zero electrical resistance, and superfluidity, flowing without friction. Bose-Einstein condensates, a fifth state of matter, form at temperatures near absolute zero. It's a fundamental limit that reveals the bizarre and beautiful quantum nature of matter. Let's jump into our next topic: what if the universe is a living organism? The idea that the universe itself might be a living organism is a profound and ancient philosophical concept, sometimes referred to as the Gaia hypothesis on a cosmic scale, or a form of cosmopsychologism. Proponents might point to the universe's apparent growth, expansion, its complex structures, galaxies, cosmic web, its cycles, star birth and death, and its self-organizing properties as analogies to biological systems. However, from a scientific perspective, the universe does not meet the generally accepted criteria for life. It doesn't reproduce, in a biological sense, though multiverses might offer a twist. It doesn't metabolize in a way analogous to organisms, and it lacks cells or a discernible genetic code. While a compelling metaphor, treating the universe as a literal living organism pushes the boundaries of scientific definition, placing it firmly in the realm of speculative philosophy rather than empirical biology. Let's jump into our final topic: the final theory of everything. The theory of everything, TOE, is the ultimate ambition of theoretical physics, a single, all-encompassing theoretical framework that describes all fundamental forces and particles in the universe, unifying general relativity with quantum mechanics. It would explain all physical phenomena, from the smallest subatomic particles to the largest cosmic structures, and potentially answer fundamental questions, like the origin of mass, the nature of space-time, and the very beginning of the universe. String theory and its successor, M theory, are currently the leading candidates for a TOE, proposing that all particles are vibrations of tiny multidimensional strings. Loop quantum gravity is another approach. Achieving a TOE would represent the pinnacle of scientific understanding, providing a complete and consistent description of reality. While still a distant dream, the pursuit of this final theory continues to drive groundbreaking research at the frontiers of physics.